Yeah. Can to make a pan.
Anatiam sakudal betikari chabebana ukakozi chita kurubakuza kuti mamuna samalira kulimbira kunikusuru precious ingakale excuse ukaferuka ni chimutu wanani alibenzero mamuna samalira pesa konchito panga nyumba fakama madam panga banja bali bonse ni my pressure don't ever be a letdown mamuna samalira kuma mutima uli rush chibaba isakasira liti chifuwa kwanza kwa naenda nakuno kuniuza kuti mamuna samalira.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday edition of Insaka Talk Show, the place where we give voice to those things that are in our hearts. And I have with me in the studio a wonderful, gallant group of men who will be speaking from their hearts on the topic of why men don't cry. Part 2. We hope to beat this topic out, and at the end of the day, maybe Henry will be shedding a tear or two. But please, gentlemen, introduce yourselves for us to get started.
Of course, this is me here in New York, Henry Sakala Kaimbi.
And this is Clement Tambo from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Thank you for watching. This is Pastor Ernest Chongo, Baltimore, Maryland.
Awesome, gentlemen. And now we proceed, I believe, to our community news.
Our community news this Sunday is about the funeral of the CEO of Mwape Peer Award Foundation, Mr. Mwape. The funeral is going to be this Saturday, the 6th of May, 2023, in New Jersey. For those people who are traveling, who will be attending the funeral, please refer to Oza page. Go to Oza page, you find all the details. They're all indeed. Those will be flying in, please use Philadelphia Airport. Everything is detailed on the Oza page. And please, let's send it gallant soldier with the respect that it deserves. Thank you so much. And please see you there.
That's good.
So, for our icebreaker, gentlemen, let's visit this space. Well, Pastor, what nicknames did you have, and do you typically give people nicknames?
Okay, is that question to me, Doc?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah. So my nickname, this is very interesting. I was famously known as Bonda. I was given this name by I think my friends, because like I stated last week, I talked about how I love to play soccer. So because I couldn't pronounce the ball in full, I was always trying to make sure that I have the ball. I can't bombwa, know. So because I would always cry for the ball, eventually they called me Bonda. So ball, and then they added the ND, and I Bonda. So that used to be my nickname.
Well, I guess we have one crier in the room here. See, he was crying over Thimpombwa way back then. So we're going to get back to you on that one, Pastor. Clement, nicknames, anything, sir?
Yeah, I've had a ton of nicknames since I was growing up. But let me just pick one specific one, which I got to love eventually. They used to call me Pele, after the Brazilians. Yes. I guess I was that good. I can give myself credit. Maybe for those of you that don't know, I actually came here on a soccer scholarship about 10 years ago. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think that you are the one that took my spot, Mr. Clement.
Yeah, because you could barely pronounce it in Chimpomba. So I could as well. Yeah, that was one of the names. That was the name that was given. But of course, along the trail of time, I had a ton of different names, but that was one of the most appealing names. Fortunately or unfortunately, some guys also still refer to me by that name. Even now, if I send a post on Facebook, for example, they'll comment by virtue of that name, which is like 10, 20 years ago. But anyway, that was one of the name that I was given, and I loved it.
Wow. So we see a soccer thread going on here. A football thread just also speaks to who we are as a country. Football is part of our DNA. Mr. Henry, nicknames.
I'm telling you, I had 2 or 3, but I'll just mention one. Actually, I like giving people nicknames too, but that's the way sometimes I intend to remember them. They gave me a nickname because I was very good in speaking Bemba at school, and I was reading the news at school in Bemba. Before the assembly, I would go in front and read the news. So they nicknamed me Kaimbi. Kaimbi means it's a tree which is very strong. Because my Bemba was strong when I'm speaking, it comes out sweet and very natural, fresh from the farm. Ngandelanda ila leta na mantenyanya fidia.
That's a good one.
So they nicknamed me Kaimbi. Kaimbi is a tree from our country, Zambia, which is very strong. So that's why the guys were calling me Kaimbi. So I think I liked it. Kaimbi.
Okay, in that spirit, Kaimbi. I know we're not a Bemba program, but let's sit there for a second before we proceed. Tell us of a moment where you said the sweet Bemba, maybe to a lady or someone, and they cried. You know, since your words, the Bemba is so sweet. Do you have a moment that you could take us to?
Yes, I told one lady that iwe baba nakachibonsa wapolapo fiengo muno hapa kati usuma bove.
For all our viewers listening out there, that is Love in Bemba 101. To our wonderful panel, we're looking forward to this segment today where seriously we're talking about a topic that is from the heart, and we like to give voice to those things that affect us at the core as human beings. So we'll proceed with our, I believe, gentlemen, help me remember what we have going on next. I think I am.
Right now, we're going to go into a commercial break.
Perfect. Commercial break. Thank you so much, gentlemen. See you soon.
My whole life, my father told me stories about moving to the United States. He would tell me that his brother, my Uncle George, was already living here and let my father stay with him for a while. Through my Uncle George, my father was introduced to our cultural organization here in America, who helped him make connections, apply for college, find his first job, and adjust to life in a completely different culture than he was used to. The Cultural Association helped him get started on his new life. My Uncle George would bring my father with him to the annual Summer Cultural Groups Festival, and later, he would bring me. It was incredible to see so many people of all ages laughing and celebrating with food and song and dance. It brought back the best feelings of home and gave my father the opportunity to pass his culture, language, and values on to me. My father and Uncle George were very close, so when George died last year, my father wanted to honor his wishes to be buried with a traditional ceremony back at his birthplace. My father told me that because Uncle George had cultural group life insurance, he was able to afford to bring George home and have the traditional burial George wanted. Though my father had been able to honor my Uncle George's wishes, it got me thinking about my own family. One day, I'd have to make the same arrangements for my own parents, and my wife's parents as well. Of course, we would want to bring them home and honor their wishes, but it would be a financial hardship for our family. There were a lot of things to think about, even though I really didn't want to think about them at all. When my father told me about cultural group life insurance, he told me it's intended to help families when they need it the most. It's not tied to an employer, so no matter where my career takes me, I'll always have coverage. The more people who participate and the younger they are, the more it helps keep the insurance premiums down for the entire association. Because my parents have cultural group term life insurance, there will be money available to help me provide the kind of service I want to give my parents. And by joining, I can put my mind at ease and continue to celebrate our traditions into the future. With cultural group life insurance, I can worry less and spend more of my time celebrating with the people who matter most to me.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You know, as we were on our break, I realized I didn't give my nickname, and my nickname was Chibuidi. Because I used to eat with both my hands. I would have a piece of Nshima here, a piece of Nshima here, and when we're eating pork chops, everybody's fat was for me because I love to eat so much, and so Chibuidi was like this kid that loved to eat.
Well, that's a skill. That's a good skill.
Yes. So Chibuidi, you know, as we were listening to the commercial, you know, from our sponsors, you know, they talked about culturals and, you know, sending a family back home, and it had to do with funeral expenses and stuff like that. Right. And even now, as we are reflecting on the death of Mr. Mwape, a man who made such an impact in our community, you know, you can never, ever underestimate the power that we all have to change the world, you know, and here's a man who endeavored to do so. And for that, we salute his legacy. And please be reminded that his funeral, again, is this Saturday. If you're able to travel, as my colleague has shared earlier on, Henry, you know, please fly into Philadelphia and be with the family, not just during the funeral, but even after the funeral. As I was listening to that commercial, I was thinking about a term that I actually came up with, gentlemen. And please, let's just talk about this before we get into this topic of Men Don't Cry. And the term I came up with was cultural emotional genocide.
Cultural emotional genocide.
Yes, sir.
You know, and any thoughts on that, Pastor? You're nodding your head. I feel I could feel you moving in there. What do you have to say to that? Do you think we perhaps were victims of a cultural emotional genocide?
You know, I think that to some extent we are, but also it comes down to who you are as a person. You know, there's certain things that have happened in the past that, you know, when you dwell on that, you have no option but just to shed tears or to cry when you think about what other people have gone through. So I think that I would agree with that.
Cultural emotional genocide. Yes, we are. And it's good. And it has its own advantage and its own disadvantages. Say, like me, most of Zambian men growing up, we were told, men don't cry. Even when you are a kid, you fall down. It hurts. You want to cry. They say, so it's like we were brought up knowing that a man has to be strong. You don't just cry. You have to be strong. So that it is now invented in us. It's like it becomes genetically inborn. It's like when you're young, they open your head and they put it in you that men don't cry. You have to be strong. And we've grown like that. So that even if you found tough time, you tell yourself that, hey, men don't cry. I have to be strong. But knowing that things are hurting, I'm hurt, but I have to express the emotion. But we are harboring, we are hiding inside just to portray that we are strong. Yes, from our cultural point of view, we have been taught not to cry, to be strong. And that is also an emotional genocide. I can put it in that context.
Wow. And gentlemen, Clement, do you have a comment before I ask, you know?
Yeah, I do. I guess it's a very interesting kind of theme and the way you framed it. Mm-hmm. I guess, you know, like my brother just said, we are so vulnerable, you know, in particular because of where we're coming from as a culture, you know, where you are trained to, even if things are harsh, you're trained and you're taught to kind of, you know, just pretend that everything's okay when it's not, you know. And this kind of leads into, I mean, we've seen this happening even back home where men just kind of commit suicides or, you know, take their lives. I mean, Others find that as a way to kind of relieve themselves from that embarrassment of not crying or not letting it out. Because I know, like for me, the times when I'm alone, when I cry out something, I'm alone. I kind of like create that within myself. So the cultural genocide. I mean, it's something that's actually happening even now with us. And I guess for some of us those of us here who are actually in a very different culture, right? That's becoming more different because we've got two different cultural experiences, where we see things from a different lens. So to your point, we're so vulnerable.
And just to add on what you have just said, you see, coming from different cultures, like we all Zambians, we came here and we have been brought up with a system which says men don't cry, be strong. And when you come to this side, this part of the world, you found that in our working place, the environment of America, there are two emotions. So when I came at first, you just a simple thing, they're hugging or something happened, they start crying. So I was like, we shall if you don't cry, you'll be seen like you have no feelings, you have no emotion. But the thing is, the culture and the environment in which we are brought up, it was a culture of saying, you have to be strong. Men don't just cry anyhow. But when we come to this culture, I'm speaking like when I came, at work, I can't feel no. Somebody starts crying. I said, we share a normal or what? Then I came to understand that, okay, because of my culture and the environment, I've been brought up this way. So in this environment, it's okay to cry anyhow. It's okay what along my emotions. So
wow.
Can I make a comment, Doc? If I
yes, please.
I think one of the issues that we have to really define or redefine is to understand that there's a difference between emotions and the strengths that Mr. Henry is talking about, because really there is no correlation between you crying and the strength that they talked about. When they're talking about a man being strong, I think what they referred to was your ability to be able to compose yourself. But I think last week, one of the points that I made was that we are emotional beings. And it's important for someone to be able to express the emotions so that they are not just, hidden on the inside of you. I think people are different. You find that some people can't release, and we release emotions very differently. So for those that are able to cry, I think we should be able to allow that they let that emotion come out as they're crying. That would help them, come back to the normal side of their lives. So I think that we have to distinguish between the strengths that they talked about, as well as the emotions that are captivated in the inside of you when you're crying.
So making sure that we're clear, Clement, help me out if we're not on the same page, that we're clear that there's not that just because you're crying doesn't make you weak, and just because you're weak doesn't, kind of that play there, And so, gentlemen, I want to tie this back to the kitchen when we were young, and please let's comment on this. They used to say, a man not even to be in the kitchen. And to me, food is a highly emotional space as well. You know what I mean? Can you speak to that? Is there you see what I'm saying? There's patterns here of all places that are joyful, beautiful, were almost like removed from us. Kitchen, those types of things. Or to translate, a young man shouldn't be in the kitchen. Any thoughts from you gentlemen on that one?
I can chime in on that. Actually, I don't know if any of you guys have ever lived in a village, which I did. I spent about a good 3-4 years. So I remember when us guys would literally go out, hunting, look after cows and all that kind of stuff. And then when they find you in a kitchen where women are, it's a problem. They would think, well, you're weak, you're being a woman and stuff like that. But that's kind of typical village kind of life. But that also transcends into even our modern, whether Musaka and everything, all these urban places where there's still that narrative to say a man is not supposed to be found in the kitchen. And this is where all these kind of problems begin, because as a man, now, how do you explain a situation where a woman is also, having so much input as just as a man, like meeting a 50-50 kind of, input, in terms of running a home. So you find that culture is still kind of contradicts what our norms should be, so to say. So, yeah.
That's why we are here as Insaka meant to be real. It's like part of culture. Like they were saying, men don't cry. It's like part of culture the way we have been brought up. So that's why we are telling even you, our listeners, our viewers, whether in Kwashango, in Zambia, know that you are able. It's okay to express your emotions. It's okay, like you're saying, it's okay to be in the kitchen. That's why we are here. I know our culture to back when can teach that but the question is, it's okay. That's why I'm saying, when things are hard, cry. When you cry, it's like you are cleaning the thing that is hurting inside you. It's a sign that you are providing a cushion, or you are reaching a place of comfort. But then there are two types of crying. We're not talking about that when people are excited, when so happy. Some of them, they cry. But like we are having a funeral on Saturday, I'll take some few pictures of men to see if they won't cry, and we'll come and share them here, so that we can attach to this topic that men cry. They're expressing their emotion. So be one notch out. I'll be with the camera, then we'll come and share, so that you know that it's normal to cry.
Can I just follow up question on that? So how do we as men kind of overcome this fear of embarrassment? And there's financial abuse of men. We don't talk about this. Where you can be abused as a man financially, emotionally, physically. Like, how do you overcome that sort of embarrassment coming out? Because if I come out and say, "Oh, my wife beats me up" and everything, that also just changes the narrative into all different directions. Particularly because let's also be mindful that our society kind of tweaks towards women. You find that even the way the laws are kind of portrayed, they kind of sometimes they get favor women, so to say. So my question is, how do you overcome that embarrassment or fear of crying?
Wow. Gentlemen, before we go further, there's a book, or there's actually a TED Talk. It's 18 minutes for our viewers. It's called The Power of Vulnerability. How we have to allow ourselves as human beings to be vulnerable. But then going to what Clement is asking, how do we get over this hurdle? Because all three of us that are listening in today would say we once heard the words "wiradila," or maybe we are resistant to being vulnerable. Right now, Clement and Ernest and Henry, my daughter's listening to this conversation today. I'm super excited. She's actually live listening. Kezia, shout out to you. But then how do we normalize this space? How do we allow ourselves, how do we give ourselves permission to live in these spaces? And then the question further is, what else does it affect when we refuse to open ourselves up in this space? What else do we close off with it? Our intimate relationships, our friendships. Is this just about crying, or does it affect many facets of our lives?
I'll give an example. If a man is in a relationship and the relationship didn't work, and he was hurt, and he has kept that hurt to himself, he has never let that hurt go out of his chest, or if it means to cry, or if it means to share with somebody else, with a colleague, or share with the brother, or come out in the open and share it. he has it with himself, hasn't opened it, you know, that hate still remains that person. So he goes with that hurt wherever he goes because he hasn't been healed. So through sharing, through showing emotions, you are letting things out. If you don't do that, wherever you go, you carry that hurt with you. And what happens if you go into another relationship? Since you have never let it go, the hurt you have, you start applying it in that other relationship. And what do we have? We have now a series of the same thing occurring. So emotions, sharing with brothers, letting it out. Maybe by you sharing, you find that what you went through was just a little thing. The person you are sharing to, he'll come back and tell you what you went through, which is worse than what you went through. Then you think, oh, I thought I was on the worst spot. So that's what you went through? Oh my God. So through sharing, we let things go. When we let things go, we heal. That's why if you were sharing, it hurts to even cry. At least now you have said it, you have spoken it, has gone out.
Okay, before the other two gentlemen speak on this, Pastor, I know you're about to say something. I am going to do a test for Henry. He's a father of young kids. What song is there that talks to that? And please sing a line from it. Let it go.
Oh, hallelujah.
Okay, sing it. Let's hear it. Okay, not that one. It's a Disney show. You're a father of young kids.
Oh, a
come on,
Disney
Henry.
song.
Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. You know that song? Huh?
When I don't know that song.
No,
I'm
okay.
very...
So, Pastor
all right, before I chime in, let me say to our viewers, please, let's share our program, you know, whatever platform that you're in, please do share program. We want men and women to come and learn here. We are on Insaka Talk Show, and we want men to learn and women. So to talk about, you know, what you mentioned, Doc, I think one of the things that we have to understand is that, like Mr. Henry has just said, the more we talk about this, the better we'll be. You see, men don't talk. One of the things that I've learned, you might be hurting on the inside of you, but we are not like women. You know, women share stuff. You could be going through the most challenging time of your life, and you would hold it. And that has really affected men. So if we could, you know, come to a place where you confide in your friend, you know, talk to them about it. This is what I'm going through. Perhaps somebody might have gone through your situation and they will tell you how they handled it during the time they were going through. So we have to learn to talk. That's one of the things that we have to do as men. Unfortunately, not a lot of us do that. We are holding back. It's okay, I'll come back home. I mean, there are things that, and I'm not saying that you should be out there telling things that's happening, but you have to come to a place where you know that I am just an emotional being and I need support. It's important for us to have a support system that will be able to say help, because even Jesus needed help. And by the way, Jesus himself cried when he was hurt. If you look at, you know, the book of John in chapter 11, you know, talking about when Lazarus cried, Jesus wept, and it was all because he had loved Lazarus. So I think it's important for us to talk. That's what I think.
Wow, Pastor. You know, we might even want to change the title of today's segment to just Jesus Wept. So if Jesus wept, who the hell are you? You know what I mean? Not to,
yeah.
You know, Clement. I see you going. You know, you're on mute, Clement. You're on mute, sir.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
To this Zoom calls. Anyway, I was just going to add on to what Pastor Ines has said and just go a little bit just in off of that. I guess when you said talk, we share. One other thing I would love to add on that is the question is, who do we share with? Because if I come to Pastor Ines as a man, he may give me that kind of advice from a manly perspective, which may still kind of brings us back to the theory of, okay, we can just handle it like this. And I guess it also be more persuasive enough to kind of share even with our friends of the opposite sex. Women. I mean, there's some women who are literally trained and taught in how they can handle such kind of situations. In terms of emotions and grieving and everything. So even just besides our people we're close to, women also can play a part in sharing both from their perspective as well as that of and then also one other thing that I don't know, maybe people may not agree with me on that, but there's some themes in my own culture that I question. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of things that I do question, particularly because, like I said earlier on, having that kind of exposure from an American perspective, how to react to certain issues and situations. There's some things that, the way I should approach them should be different. And if you grow up in the culture where you're just taught this is just how it's supposed to be, it kind of still defeats the purpose on how you can handle a situation when you're confronted. So that's what I would just say.
Wow. I want to thank our viewers. The comments keep coming here. Zenith, we got your comment there. When I got to somewhere around 11th grade, my dad started insisting that my brothers take part in cooking and cleaning of the kitchen. We were all women up early in the morning. We were all women. There we're talking about issues of equity. And then also we had a few other comments. Please keep them coming. We're glad to have you. Great point, Pastor Ernest. We got that comment there. Great point, Clement. Zambian men therapy. So please keep talking to us. Now, gentlemen, let's go back to this question that stands here in front of us. What was your greatest childhood fear and how did it drive you? Who wants to take a bite at that one? Who wants to go first?
I think Mr. Henry can go first.
Okay. I don't know. Fear. Okay. I guess fear relating to our topic, right? Because it sounds a little bit more ambiguous, but I may personally try to narrow it as much as I can. I guess my greatest childhood fear was, I never grew up with a father. I was raised by my brother. And then earlier on in my upbringing, he moved to the US. So that experience of having that, exposure or inspiration, used to make me think a lot about, because that's another topic for another day. But growing up, not having that manly kind of thing was one of the things that I used to be more skeptical about, and I was handle it. But thank God that I have brothers who kind of walk me through that kind of life. So I guess after that was my biggest fear.
Wow. Okay, fear. One of the fears I had in my childhood was how do I approach a lady if I like her? How? So I request your moment of it.
That's a good one.
Henry.
I'm telling you, I have that fear.
Huh? Huh?
So I had to ask my brother. So that fear. So my brother told me that, you know what you do? When you see a lady, just go. So I didn't know how I overcome that fear. It just left without anybody taking it away. But I had that fear. So how do I start? How do you start this thing? But anyway, it went away. And how did I overcome it? Through maturity. It just disappeared. Sometimes fear comes because of our mind is not strong. We are still thinking like a kid. But as I grew up, I didn't know even where it went.
Wow.
Can I just one quick point?
Please, Clement. Please.
I guess in a way that you overcame that. You may not have realized it, because when you are exposed, you are confronted with that situation, right? It gives you that momentum to think outside the box and approach the, you know what I mean? Like a brother say, just go say this. The reaction, based on the reaction of that particular lady, right, gives you like that exposure and that momentum to kind of go strong next time. I guess to just a reflex. The more it confronts you, the more you know how to handle it.
Wow. So, gentlemen, I think we should have a show in the future that talks about Henry's topic. Or the fear that I had, or maybe we'll call it Ichochintu, or something like that, By the way, gentlemen, having a good time with you. Please, Pastor, you had something to say.
No, I just wanted to agree with you, Doc. And the reason is this: it's not just Mr. Henry. We still have young men out there who are still, in the same predicament as Mr. Henry. They are matured. They would want to settle down, but they don't know how to approach a lady. So we have work to do, and we still have to be talking about, because this is a serious issue that is going out there. Some guy has grown, he's settled, he has a house, he has everything, and yet just to approach a lady has been a very difficult moment for. So I think we need to do that. Mr. Henry, you will have to deal with that.
I'm game on. Or just Henry tell them approach the lady and tell the lady about you. Me inside here, I'm dead. So
we have a comment here from our mother, Miss. She said, Miss Sengawila. She's saying, "I am a woman clergy, but God used me in Zambia to save marriages because men were willing to open up by being vulnerable." Thank you so much for that great comment. Gentlemen, we are living within our own prisons where we believe that that it's safe to be silent, when actually they say that only the mouth that is quiet stays hungry, and a mouth that speaks will never go hungry. I think, Pastor, we haven't gotten to your answer for this question, sir.
I was trying to run away from it. Yeah, so my greatest fear, actually, I have grown through this over time, but I didn't know what death was, growing up. So one time, I think we were in the field, and my friend told me that, he misses his mom. And then I asked my friend, where was his mom? And my friend told me that the mother was late. I didn't know what day. I think, we're like third grade, and he told me the mother was late. Then I said, is there a thing such as, someone dying and you'll never see your mom again? Mm-hmm. And yeah, he told me, yes, I'll never see my mom again. And, a couple years later, guess who passed away? My mom. So it was like, okay, this, what I feared the most. It's like what scripture says in the book of Job, that what I feared the most
has come upon me.
Yeah. So I was so fearful of that. What will happen with, if my parents pass on? But throughout the time, I think I've grown through it, and that was the greatest, my childhood that I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pastor, your point actually connects to mine. You and I are very similar. My greatest fear, Clement Henry, Pastor, was the death of my father, very specifically. Because my father comes from a family of 12, and most of my father's family people, kind of struggled. And so as a young person, I used to think, if my father dies, this would be the end of us. In Zambia, people used to take everything away from you when your parent died. So I used to have,
swimming pool.
Yeah, na satellite dish basenda by Pangen Babula. And so my greatest fear was not that I don't love my mother, but just seeing that dad was the main breadwinner, is that if my father died, Chikabashani. And the question we asked is, what did it drive you? How did it drive you? Gentlemen, my fear of my father's death came around the time HIV was rampant in Zambia. Anytime you're walking in the streets, you would see people. And then you just see the eyes. And I remember thinking, will this thing happen in my house? I remember being so scared, Clement, that even when my dad would have malaria or rash, I thought this is the beginning of the end. And so for me, it became such a driver in my life that I believe that drove me so much that I made a vow, Henry, and my vow was that I'll never ever be with any woman unless I married her. And I kept that vow.
Kudos to you, Doc.
But I share that lightly on a public forum like this because people will misunderstand. But I'd like to clarify, it wasn't born out of righteousness. It was born out of fear.
Fear.
Or life experience.
Yes. I don't, if this thing could potentially take away my father, I will never allow it to potentially take away me.
Wow.
But the problem with burying things like our emotions, and when we're driven by fear, we bury other things as well, positive
Correct.
things. And so that's where my fear came from. So, gentlemen, let's proceed. Fear. Let me give us an acronym today. Are you all ready?
Sure.
And then let's talk to it. False, Pastor, you probably heard this in seminary. False evidence appearing real. I think I've heard this from men of God. False evidence appearing real. Can you speak to that, gentlemen? Your fears. Now, Pastor, you said you feared the death of your mom. Then it happened upon you, as it said is it Job, right? And then on the back end of all this, what would you tell a young man listening to us today, a young lady listening to us, who's still driven by this fear?
And thank you, Doc. So the first thing is that, we have to do what the Bible says. We have to raise children in the fear of the Lord. You see, one of the statements that I normally make is that we actually, from a faith point of view, I want to clarify that from a faith point of view is that we actually don't have fear because God doesn't give us what he doesn't have. Okay, so he can't give us everything that he has is what we have right now, but we have to train them to bring them into perspective where they understand that these things are real. It's important for us to talk about death in case, you and I, what happened. Nobody took time to explain to us what death is. So when my friend was talking to me, that was perhaps the first time that I heard somebody talk about someone dying. But if I had prior knowledge to that, I would have put myself in the shoes of my friend and what he was going through. But what I would tell someone is exactly what I just said. Teach people what these things are all about. Explain to them that life is not just about cell phones and whatever is happening currently. So many issues happen in life. People die suddenly. We're talking about, one of the legends in our community, Mr. Mwape. He passed on suddenly. Nobody expected this man to die. What if children were not taught what death is? How would they handle that? So we have to sensitize young ones, tell them these things happen. That's what I think, Doc.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Clement, I see you're ready to go.
Yeah, I was just gonna add on, to your point and Pasani's point as well. I guess one of the things that we do underestimate, especially from back home, is having a mentor. I first learned of what a mentor is and the impact they may have when I was in the US, and that's maybe like 5-6 years ago, and that has impacted whether it's my academic life, my social life, a lot of things. Going back home, nobody would even advise you to say seek a mentorship. To your point, you gave a very good example of the experience you had with your dad and everybody else. So imagine in a situation where you had somebody who's not actually your brother, your uncle, but just somebody outside your house, able to give you that guidance or advice from a very different perspective. That's one of the most impactful things that I personally have I've come to learn, and we do underestimate that, And I'll give you an example. My mentor is from Minnesota, So he and I meet every 2 weeks, So I've been mentored, for instance, actually my first article that I published, it was actually preferred by him. So there's different aspects, different ingredients of experiences that I've gotten from him, and this also brings us back to, if there's a young man out there, right? He's maybe he's so much vulnerable that he or she may assume or think indulging in drugs, for example, substance abuse may be an alternative way to kind of overcome that. That's just, so having a mentor and guidance, talk about open up to them, because if you open up so much to your mentor, they actually offload a lot of alternative ways and means in which you can be helped. I'll give you guys an example. Just less than 2 years ago, I had a back-to-back kind of, I lost my fiance, a month before we would get married. That was in 2021. And then 3 weeks before that, I lost a wonderful mother that looked out for me throughout my college life. Within 3 weeks, and then I just thought, this one doesn't love me. Like, I became literally emotionally detached to the point where I don't really say this in public a lot, but it actually impacted my work at the UN, because by then I was with the UN. I ended up leaving. And people were like, how the heck would you leave the UN? Like, it's something that I also didn't know what I was thinking. But I engaged my mentor a lot in a lot of conversations, some stuff that I may not open up here. And that was so much help. So mentorship is a very critical thing that we should also emphasize on.
Wow. Clement, let me just tell you, today we would like to give you the award of, if we have such an award as Man of the Day, MVP, you sharing your very personal story with us today. It's such a gift. Thank you so much, sir. I believe this is what this platform should be about, not just scratching on the surface. Thank you so much, sir. Leaving a job at the UN, anyone would question your sanity. We've all been trying to get at the UN at some point in our lives. And so, Clement, I'd like for you to answer our next question. And I think it was from a lady here on our comments. She asks, what do we think about therapy? At Zenith Malao said, what do you all think about therapy? And then everybody could take a shot at this. And Clement, I wanted to ask you to do this. And before you answer that question, Clement, you said you wrote an article. Where can we find that article that you wrote, if you don't mind sharing about that as well?
Yeah. I can share with you guys. Yeah. After I speak, I can share it on. And then,
perfect.
Yeah. So,
thank you, sir.
And to be honest, therapy is one of the most critical things we should not underestimate. It does help. And again, it brings us back to our earlier conversations where, after having this back-to-back kind of death, and then 3 years later, I lost my dad. So I was just like, everyone that I spoke with, advised me to kind of seek, therapy, could go for grief counseling. I used to underestimate that. I was like, no, it's okay. Not until it kept coming up, like that kind of grief was just kind of cycling, coming back and forth. So I engaged somebody from church. Some of the questions they were asked, one of the most interesting things I was told was that, have you ever realized the fact that when you lose somebody, right, it's just a thing of saying, oh, see you later, because tomorrow it might be you. You don't know when you're going as well. To Pastor Ines' point, our wonderful Mr. Mape just went to sleep and never woke up. So it's the idea of even those who kind of passed before us, any of us can go, we just don't know when. So, yeah, that was a point I was just trying to kind of. I'll share the match here as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Brother Henry?
Yes, going to the question, therapy is good for both men and women, and it helps a lot. I'll give it in the perspective of, in the settings of our country. You see, when a man and a woman, they are married in the house, and they have a misunderstanding, which they can't solve themselves. What do they do? They call for elders, and they seek them. That is therapy. They're giving them guidance how to carry on. And there is another situation where you have an argument, you have a misunderstanding between you, a man and a woman. Then a man says, which means go, they give you therapy, they teach you, they treat you. But the question is, you who is telling somebody to go get therapy, have you gotten therapy yourself too? So therapy is good. It helps, it heals, it gives life. So not that if you have therapy, if you have a sungu nanguyo, if you have an akashireka, no. Men needs therapy. Men needs to to be taught. Men need to educate themselves in different angles. Like, if you're not educated on what you fear most, it will end up killing you. But once you get educated or you talk to on what you fear, you find that that was not even something you should be fearing. So, in a nutshell, therapy is the best.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great. Do I make a comment here? It's what you said, Mr. Henry, is paramount. Therapy is simply treatment. Okay, for those of us who live in the world of psychology, therapy is treatment, and it's simply talking to someone, being able to help you to deal with the difficult situation that you're going through. And I would like to encourage all men, because again, there's this phenomenon that we've been raised up to know that you can't go and talk to someone about what you're going through. We are living in a day where people are killing themselves, suicide and all of those. Why? Because someone could not talk to a mentor. Someone would not talk to their pastor. Someone would not talk to their mom or to their aunt, whoever is available. But I'll encourage everyone, it's important for us to take time. When you are going through a turbulent time, a very difficult time, understand that someone would see your situation from a different perspective, and they'll show you or direct you or guide you how well you could handle that in order for you to heal from the situation. So it's important for us to talk to people.
But Pastor, just to add on what you have just said, a best example is, remember when HIV came in Zambia or in the world, people committed suicide because they had no information. When they just hear that they're HIV positive, they think that's the end of their life, and they go commit suicide. But now look, nowadays, people have been educated. People have been talked to. People have been to therapy, just like they have been educated. When they hear they are HIV positive, they just know what to do. Wow. So that's a good point of therapy, to be educated into something, and then you know how to carry yourself.
Right. Henry, you remind me of the scripts that most of us love to quote: "The truth shall set you or make you free." Hashtag Kakulwa. The truth really liberates, and I think therapy is a journey to truth. For most of us, and therapy happens in many forms. I think we need to acknowledge that, not just the formalized Western way. Sometimes grandma was the best therapist you could ever find.
Oh yeah.
But gentlemen, we have a challenge here from our sister Brenda. She's saying, listen to this, gentlemen. Brother Clement, listen to this. We're getting compliments. And she says, loving this new look of Insaka men. I think it's our looks, gentlemen. Everybody smile so that I can take pictures for us. And now that you're all in the hot seat, how about organizing a young men's camp where life lessons will be shared? Gentlemen, focus is mainly on the girl child. What do you say to she has made a request?
Point taken. I think we may consider it in future. We are listening, and it's about us now to ponder about it and think about it, because we have to put all the arsenals in place. What does it take? What are we gonna be doing? What are we teaching them? What do we want to achieve by taking them in that camp? Anyway, what you have said, madam, is good, and it's worth trying. So we can't say no, and we can't say yes.
But I think I like what you said, Mr. Henry. We have to prepare. We don't want to come here and give nuggets to people who need real meat. So one of the things that we'll have to do is to make sure that we adequately prepare ourselves. So when we give that information, these young ones will be able to run with their lives, knowing that they've been taught and they've been prepared for anything that would come their way. So I think preparation will be cardinal.
Bingo.
Okay, so we have 7 minutes, gentlemen. Sorry to rush us through, but then we have to address legacy. Our friend Mr. Mwape left a legacy. Now the question now has to do with what we tell our sons. what we tell our sons. And I'm trying to get to that a question. Can somebody help me? Was it specifically what do we tell our sons about?
Yes, I could help you with that, Doc.
Oh, there we go.
It says, what would you tell your sons about crying and expressing emotions? So the viewers would like to know what you would tell if you do have a son. I want to be specific. What would you tell your sons about crying?
I can join in. I don't have a son yet.
You still have to answer. You still have to answer. You should be thinking about what you would tell him when he comes.
What about Joe Clement? I assume I'm my own son. So, it goes back to what we were saying. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. The moment we start imposing that masculine kind of thing on our sons, I guess that's the beginning of how we kind of not to give them good guidance. If the situation calls for an emotional kind of outcry, I mean, it's okay. And like what I think, I don't know, I think it should be Mr. Henry or Dr. who said this earlier on, where they will tell you that, you were kosa, palaso samatu muntu ashta commit suicide because fear of, it's like when you're cooking, right? Importo fidanga ashtawati is overflowing, right?
Yes.
You remove the lid. That allows the relief of that heat to go, Same kind of concept. The moment you kind of cry it out, it kind of gives you that relief, that free mind. So even with our kids, with sons, and it's okay to advise them not, to cry. Sorry.
Thanks so much, Clement. Thank you so much, Henry. We've got 4 minutes, and then Pastor, we've got 4 minutes to go. Please attack this question efficiently.
Yeah, it's good I'll tell my son it's good for you to cry, because once you cry, you relieve yourself. It's like, one of the prophets who said, the word of God is like fire shut in my bones.
My bones.
It has to get out. Mm-hmm. Because if it's shut into your bones and you don't let it out, you're going to explode. So when you have emotions in you, express them. Wow. Boom.
Wow.
Yes, I am also in agreement, with teaching them that it's okay for you to express yourself emotionally like that. However, I think we should also, one of the things that we should also do is to teach them, how do I express myself? Okay, it's important that, we allow them to express themselves, but also to show them how. Because sometimes, I think, Mr. Clement, you said something about, some people are embarrassed or something like that. We have to know that we are all different in the way we are able to express our emotions. But the most important thing is for us to know, how would one express themselves if they were found in a situation where they needed to release that emotion that is affecting them as a result of what they're going through. So the how is also important. And the same vein, I think, Doc, we were supposed to address the issue of how do we raise sons, right? In connection to drugs. So I'm not sure if we are going to have enough time to handle that, but I think it's important, more especially that where the society where we are today, it's infested with drugs and drug abuse. We would want to talk about that. I'm not sure if we do have time to address that.
Wow. I almost feel like I'd propose, gentlemen, that we have a segment dedicated to drug abuse, drug and alcohol abuse, and maybe a full segment, because this is a real issue, not only in American society, but across the globe,
I do with that.
I think this, what do you say, Henry? Sorry.
Another thing is, you see, when men are crying, what should be the position of your wife or your significant other? What should they play? What role should they play when you're crying, when you're expressing emotion? Because they are also healers in one way or another.
Wow.
They have they have to see the signal. My husband is crying. My boyfriend is crying. Sometimes we are crying, we are not showing it, but inside. But now, how do you come in as a woman in this crying man?
So, gentlemen, we have 20 seconds. So, one word responses today's segment from you, gentlemen. What comes to your mind in one word? We got 12 seconds to go. Henry, first word.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Pastor.
Increase your knowledge base.
Brother Clement.
Mentorship is critical.
Mentorship is critical. Hashtag Ukukakulwa. Hashtag Ukukakulwa. It's been good to have y'all. Have a pleasant afternoon. It's the men at Insaka Talk Show. Goodbye.
Thank you.